Okay, this is a guide to how to write an introduction for question to AS History, Weimar, Germany. Okay, so one of the issues people have when writing question two is they struggle with timing a little bit. Okay, and there's a little bit of a strategy that can allow you to combine precision with an introduction, but without losing any marks. So you've been taught to approach question two like this, and what I'm going to advise you to do, if you've been instructed to watch this video, is rather than the 3 and D sections being separate and maybe two full paragraphs, and I'll show you a trick that allows you to condense it into one paragraph without compromising on quality. So what are we actually looking for in an introduction? These are some of the main points. We're looking for an introduction to address the question directly. So the question is asking you how valid is, and they will provide you with an interpretation. Okay, so you're looking to address that head on. The second thing is you are looking to outline 3 interpretations. Now, they will give you one in the original interpretation in the question, and they'll also highly likely give you at least one other in the extracts, but it's your job to identify 3 of those. You're going to look to make a judgment in the introduction if you can. Again, answering the question, how valid is that original interpretation? And if you can, introduce to the examiner that you are aware of some of the different schools of thought. And you can do that quite subtly, and I'll show you how in the next couple of slides. Okay, so we're not going to run through this in any detail. There's other videos that run through the extracts in loads of detail. For the sake of just going through an introduction together, the first thing to note is that they will give you an interpretation. So this is the question we're working with. How valid is the view that the Treaty of Versailles led to the instability of the early Weimar Republic? So if you've done your work and you've done your revision, then you'll know, or you should be able to identify, that's a traditional interpretation. Okay, traditional interpretation look at big external factors or the role of significant individuals. So we can identify that quite quickly. Again, we're not interested in reading through the extract just for this video. I can tell you that this extract and this interpretation completely agrees with the original interpretation and is therefore a traditional view. The second one doesn't. The second one disagrees and gives more of a revisionist interpretation, writing in 2021. Okay, so we just need that for a little bit of background music to allow us to access what we're looking at now, which is the introduction, and we're going to look to combine both the 3 and D sections. So let's look at 2 examples together. This is the first one, and feel free to pause this video at any point and read through it in loads of detail. You're looking for 4 things. Does this example address the question, outline 3 interpretations, make a judgment, and introduce a school of thought? So actually, if I invite you to pause the video now, I'd like you to see if you can spot those 4 things. Okay, you've now done one of 2 things. You've either paused the video and done this properly, or you can't be bothered and you're just going to listen to through. Either way, that's absolutely fine. So let's have a look together. So one interpretation on the instability of the Weimar after the Great War was the impact of the Treaty of Versailles. So there's one interpretation there. Another interpretation is that political violence and division was the main reason for instability. It's a second one. An alternative interpretation is that it was a combination of external and internal factors. So it's quite clearly 3 interpretations there. But you've got to ask yourself, does that address the question directly? I'm not sure it does. I don't think there's a judgment in there, and there's definitely no evidence of schools of thought. Okay, so let's do the same thing again. Try and pause the video now, and I'd like you to have a look at this introduction and see if you can spot the 4 different criteria. Okay, so if we have a little look at this together, the traditional interpretation outlined in Extract 1, that instability in Germany was caused by the Treaty of Versailles, is valid to an extent. A revisionist view in Extract 2, challenging the traditional view, outlines how political extremism and violence was a major cause of instability. A more suitable interpretation, taking a post-revisionist approach, would be that the instability was a result of both external events, such as the Versailles Treaty, as well as internal divisions within Germany. So let's break this down a little bit, okay? In terms of addressing the question and making a judgment, I think it's very clear in the first 2 lines, okay? Whenever you see words such as is valid to an extent, it's clear that the student is making a judgment. And in this case, is saying that, yes, the original interpretation of the Treaty of Versailles does have some validity, but only to an extent. We can clearly spot 3 different interpretations here: Treaty of Versailles, political extremism, and a combination of both. And you can also see here where the candidate is introducing different schools of thought. Again, very subtly, but you get traditional revisionist and post-revisionist. Now, you'll notice that that's only 7 lines long. Okay, that's not a lot of text, but that is a really, really solid introduction that does a lot of positive things. So just to recap, this is what you're looking at doing an introduction. Address the question, outline 3 interpretations, make a judgment, and where possible, introduce a school of thought.